At first I thought she just needed space. But then I realized, my daughter-in-law was deliberately erasing me from my son's life. She never expected me to fight back. But I did, and she wasn't ready for what came next. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. This story, raw, emotional, and true, will leave you questioning the lines between love, loyalty, and manipulation. They say mothers lose their sons when they get married. I used to scoff at that until it happened to me. My name is Helen Moore. I raised my son Daniel through nights of teething screams and days of scraped knees. His father died young. A car accident that stole more than a man. It took a future. I was both mother and father, nurse and teacher, comfort and discipline. We weren't just close. We were fused together by grief, laughter, survival. When Daniel met her Lauren, I was thrilled at first. She was beautiful, polished, the kind of girl I thought he deserved. She worked in PR, knew how to talk to people, knew how to look like she cared. But there was always something distant in her smile, something too calculated. A chill behind her warmth. I brushed it off. She was shy, maybe. Not everyone wears their heart on their sleeve. Give her time, I told myself. She'll open up. I gave her space, gave their relationship room to bloom. They married after 2 years. The wedding was perfect on the surface. Everything white and delicate, like walking into a Martha Stewart catalog. But I felt something that day. A tension behind her mother's tight smile, behind Lauren's eyes. Daniel barely looked at me the whole ceremony. I chalked it up to nerves. But the silence began to grow. Phone calls became texts. Then the texts slowed. Weekends disappeared. Holidays came and went with polite invitations, but always with reasons why this year might be best with just us. My birthday passed with a generic card signed by both of them, in her handwriting. And still I gave space. I made excuses for her. For him. Until the day I drove by their house. Unannounced, yes, and saw Daniel outside with the baby, my grandson James. I pulled over, heart leaping. But before I could open the door, I saw her step out. She glanced at me. And then, without a word, took the baby inside. Daniel followed her like a ghost on a leash. He didn't even wave. That's when I knew, this wasn't about space. This was war. I sat in my car for a full 10 minutes that day, hands frozen on the steering wheel. That look in Lauren's eyes, it wasn't fear. It wasn't annoyance. It was ownership. She looked at me like I was trespassing on her property. And Daniel? He looked like a man with no voice. I didn't sleep that night. I turned over every memory, every conversation since their engagement. The little slights, the missed calls, the way Lauren always insisted on hosting, so I wouldn't have to worry about doing too much. The way Daniel's phone was suddenly always on silent. The first time she called me Helen, instead of Mom. It all clicked. She wasn't just setting boundaries. She was replacing me, dismantling our bond brick by brick. And she thought I'd be too polite, too scared of losing Daniel to say anything. She was almost right. Almost. The next morning, I baked the banana bread Daniel loved as a kid. I wrapped it carefully, added a handwritten note, nothing accusatory, just love. I drove it over. Lauren opened the door, holding James on her hip. "Oh," she said. Not surprised. Not angry. Just displeased. Like she'd opened the door to find a Jehovah's Witness instead of her husband's mother. I brought some bread for Daniel. Thought I'd stop by. "Now's not really a good time, Helen," she said, bouncing James a little too deliberately. "We're actually just heading out." "To where?" She blinked. "Just a thing. Family brunch." I looked at James, cheeks flushed, curly hair matted with sleep. "He doesn't look like he's going anywhere." She adjusted her hold, not answering. That's when Daniel appeared behind her. His eyes fell on the bread in my hand, then flicked up to mine. "Hey, Mom," he said quietly. "Hi, sweetheart." Lauren glanced back at him. He froze. And then he said the thing that changed everything. "We really do have to go." She hadn't told him to say it, not out loud. But she didn't have to. The leash was invisible but tight. I left the bread on the step. And I started planning. I hired a lawyer not to sue, to learn about rights, about visitation, about how grandparental alienation worked in the eyes of the law. I wasn't just going to whine about this. I was going to fight with intelligence, not emotion. But what I needed first was evidence. That's when I remembered Natalie. Natalie was Lauren's former best friend. They drifted apart shortly after the wedding, and I'd always wondered why. I found her on Facebook and reached out. Her message came back within hours. I always liked you, Helen. You should know Lauren's been doing this to more than just you. Call me. We met for coffee. What she told me was like peeling back a rotten apple. Lauren, it turned out, was a controller. She cut off Natalie after Natalie voiced concern about how Lauren talked about Daniel. She'd bragged about shaping him, joked that men need to be trained. She hated clingy in-laws, had a checklist for how to gradually reduce their influence. She called it taking back the family tree. She'd erased her own father, slowly distanced her mother, then set her sights on Daniel's past. Me. I asked Natalie if she'd write a statement. She didn't hesitate. Now I had motive, character, a pattern. But I wasn't just going to win in court. I wanted my son back, and he wouldn't come home to a battle. He needed to remember who I was. I started writing letters. Every week I sent one. No blame, no guilt, just memories. The time we camped and got rained out. How he cried during ET. The year he saved his allowance to buy me a necklace from the craft fair. I told him what James' first laugh must sound like. I told him I missed him. He never responded, but I knew he read them. Because one day, the letters stopped being returned to sender. 3 weeks passed without a word. Then one Friday evening I got a call. It was Daniel. His voice was low, hesitant. "Hey Mom," he said. I froze. My heart slammed so hard I had to sit down. "Daniel, I just wanted to say I got the letters. Thank you." My eyes filled. "Oh, sweetheart, I've missed you." But before I could say more, I heard it. In the background, her voice. "What are you doing?" Daniel went silent. I heard a shuffle. The line went dead. No goodbye. No explanation. Just silence. It felt like a trapdoor had opened under me. He'd reached out. That meant he was trying. And that meant Lauren knew. She was watching him now. Tighter than ever. But I had seen the crack. And I was going to drive a wedge through it. That Sunday I showed up at their church. It was where they took James to the toddler program. Lauren paraded him around like a show pony. I hadn't been there since the christening. When they stepped out, I stood at the edge of the parking lot, holding a framed photo of Daniel, age 5, frosting on his cheeks, his arms around my neck. She froze when she saw it. Daniel saw me and stopped. James pointed. "Nana." His voice was high and clear. It pierced the air like a trumpet. Lauren's face changed. Her jaw tightened. Daniel blinked, startled but not angry. Lauren stepped between us. "Don't do this, Helen." "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm standing here. My grandson knows me. You taught him to forget me, but he didn't. He remembered." "Daniel," she said, turning to him. "This is exactly the kind of boundary we talked about." But Daniel didn't answer. He was looking at the photo in my hand. "Remember this?" I said softly. "Your 5th birthday. You told me I was your favorite person in the world." Lauren grabbed his arm. "We're leaving." "No," Daniel said. It was quiet, barely above a whisper. "What?" she snapped. He took a step forward toward me, toward the photo. "We need to talk," he said. "All of us." She looked at him like he'd just slapped her. And then with perfect calm, she turned to me and said, "If you think you've won anything, Helen, you haven't seen what I'm capable of." She walked off. That was when I realized she wasn't just angry. She was scared. Lauren filed a restraining order. She claimed I had been stalking, harassing, showing up uninvited, and traumatizing her child. She had timestamps, photos, even a church member's statement. One of her new friends, claiming I'd caused a scene. I was served at home, like a criminal. But what she didn't know was that I was ready. I countered with Natalie's statement, the lawyer's prep work, and most of all, Daniel's own phone call which I'd recorded. Legally, I lived in a one-party consent state. It proved he'd reached out, willingly, that he wanted contact. And now we were in court. Daniel looked torn, guilty, but he was there. And when asked if he wanted the order enforced, he said no. He said, "I want peace." Lauren's face cracked for the first time in public. The judge denied her petition. But more than that, he issued a warning. Manipulation by a parent or spouse, he said, to sever a child from their grandparent can be seen as coercive. If it continues, custody agreements can be revisited. That was when I realized she didn't fear me. She feared losing control. And it was slipping fast. 2 nights later, Daniel showed up at my door. Alone. He looked exhausted. Older than 35. He hadn't come to make peace. He'd come to confess. She reads my messages, he said. She deletes voicemails. She blocks you and then says you stop trying. He swallowed. She told me you once tried to sue us. I believed her. I'm sorry. I couldn't speak. I just hugged him. I need to know James won't grow up thinking you're gone, he said. And then he dropped the real bombshell. She's pregnant again. I blinked. And she told me, he continued, that if I didn't cut you off completely, she'd leave. Take James. Take the baby. Move back with her family. I felt ice in my chest. That's why he'd stayed so quiet. That's why he'd withdrawn. It wasn't weakness. It was hostage negotiation. I looked him in the eyes. You don't have to choose between her and me, but you do have to choose between love and fear. After Daniel's visit, days passed without word. Then one evening he called again, whispering, from their garage. She went through my emails, he said. Saw I'd contacted a counselor. She flipped. Said I was emotionally cheating with my mother. There was a long pause. She's not well, Mom. But I can't. I can't let her break everything. You don't have to, I said. But you do have to protect your children. That word children hit him hard. It carried the weight of every bedtime story I used to read. Every time I patched a skinned knee, every lunchbox I packed. I'm coming over tomorrow, he said. With James. What about her? I told her it's non-negotiable. It was the first decision he'd made without asking permission. They arrived just after 10 a.m. James ran into my arms, squealing Nana, over and over. I cried right there on the porch. Daniel looked both terrified and relieved. He's been asking about you for months, he admitted. She said you didn't want to see him. I clenched my jaw. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I baked cookies. We played cars. We built a pillow fort like Daniel and I used to do. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter. Until Lauren showed up. She didn't knock. She barged in. Face red, eyes wild. You think you can kidnap my son? She hissed. Daniel stepped between us. No one kidnapped anyone. We're visiting my mother. That's it. He's not going to be raised around this kind of manipulation. She spat, pointing at me like I was poison. Daniel looked her dead in the eye. No, he said. He's not. Her face twisted. You're choosing her over me? I'm choosing truth over lies. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard it shook the frame. The next week, Lauren filed for separation. Not divorce separation. Just enough to rattle Daniel. Just enough to scare him. But she made a critical mistake. She threatened to take James out of state. Daniel filed an emergency motion. He'd gathered proof. Recordings. Screenshots. Witness statements. And most damning of all, a message from her mother saying, "You can't just erase Helen like you did your dad." The judge ruled in Daniel's favor. Joint custody. No relocation. Counseling ordered. And best of all, court-mandated visitation with me. Lauren was livid. Humiliated. She hadn't just lost control. She'd lost the mask. Weeks passed. James came to my house twice a week. Daniel and I rebuilt trust. Slowly. Carefully. And then one evening, I got an anonymous envelope in the mail. Inside a flash drive. And a note. Thought you'd want to know what she says when no one's watching. Played it. Lauren. In their kitchen. On a rant. I swear to God, if his mother shows up one more time, I'm calling CPS. I'll say she hit James. Don't think I won't. I don't care if it's a lie. He'll believe me over her. He always does. My blood ran cold. I didn't send it to Daniel right away. Instead, I sent it to my lawyer. Then I waited. 3 days later, Lauren showed up at my door. Tears. Smeared mascara. Her voice trembling. I made a mistake, she said. I've been under stress. I was wrong about you. It was an act. But I let her perform. And when she was done, I handed her a copy of the transcript. Her hand shook. You sent this to Daniel, she asked. Not yet, I said. But I will, if you ever threaten my family again. She opened her mouth, closed it, and walked away. She never returned. It's been 2 years since that day. Daniel and Lauren finalized their divorce after another blow-up. She moved back to Ohio. Left James with shared custody. Daniel met someone new, quiet, warm, gentle. No masks. James is thriving. He knows I'm Nana. He knows I never left. The new baby? A little girl. Named Hope. Sometimes I wonder what Lauren thinks now, whether she regrets what she did. Whether she believes she lost control, or simply lost. But I no longer care. Because I fought back. Not with fire. Not with revenge. With truth. And in the end, that was what she was never ready for. Sometimes the quietest battles are the ones fought with the most strength. Helen didn't use anger. She used truth, memory, and love. And in the end, she reclaimed her place not just in her son's life, but in the life of her grandson. If this story moved you, if it made you think about family, control, or standing your ground, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And leave a comment if you've ever felt erased, overlooked, or underestimated. You are not alone. Bellhop Bell, and remember, sometimes the fiercest power is the love that refuses to be forgotten.